let us enjoy what shows we prefer to watch first or like shows to watch the next day and just move on. This is not like what 1998. I mean, come on now.
Welcome everybody to the Ring Generals podcast. My name is Nick Nita, and alongside me is Easy Eric Santos.
What's cooking, guys?
Of course, my main man, RKJ Man.
Let's talk that talk, y'all. Hypocritical Nick.
Yes, and of course, as you see in one of the screens, we have No DQ contributor Cindy G here joining us on the podcast as special guest today. Cindy, welcome to the Ring Generals podcast.
Hey guys.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really looking forward to discuss some topics. Man, it's been like quite a couple months since the last time I've done a podcast with someone. So I'm ready to go, and yeah.
Yeah, no lack of content for sure on this podcast. We're going to be discussing the new revelations with WWE's non-testing, and they have a COVID-19 crisis going on inside the Performance Center. Many people coming out and explaining some of the bad stuff that's going on as well, the lack of testing, the irresponsibility of WWE. So we're going to dive into that. We also will discuss Tessa Blanchard being fired as well. With any guests that we have, please promote yourself. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media. Let everybody know where they can find you on the internet, anywhere you want.
All right. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at nodq.com/Cindy. That's going to take you directly to my Twitter page where I tweet like here and there when it comes to AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling and then life in general. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram and on my YouTube channel at simply_C_OK. And also make sure to follow nodq.com on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube channel, and check out the website for all the latest news in WWE, AEW, and other wrestling-related news as well.
Cindy's a pro. She does it better than us, for sure. And with that, obviously, the Ring Generals, we have our own social medias. It's pretty much, it's at the Ring Generals on Instagram, Ring Generals 1 on Twitter, Facebook. Go to the Ring Generals page. We have a lot of content there as well. And you can find all of us, RKJ Man for most of RKJ Man stuff, Eric Santos, and I'm Nick Nina, of course, so you can find me on all that. And you'll just see our names spread out all over the website as well. Always, any YouTuber, subscribe, like, and comment. It actually matters. It helps us promote our stuff. It helps get our stuff out into the ether of people that may not know about us. So if you're a fan of us, please do that. Feel free to comment, whether negative and positive. We got a couple of negative comments on the last podcast, but we love that because we want to hear what you have to say about what we are saying. It's the reason we're podcasting. If we just listen to each other's opinions, it wouldn't make much sense. And of course, there's a little subscribe button, our little icon in the corner. Subscribe there. It's super easy. All you have to do is just click the damn. We want to start the podcast by moving back into the speaking out movement. If you haven't seen our last podcast, us three and Jesse Chaparro, we did a whole entire podcast on the speaking out movement for almost an hour. Really dove into some of the big time topics in that, and also giving our own opinion about what we've seen and how we're trying to fix what's going on in the professional wrestling business in that realm. And Cindy, we definitely wanted to get a female's perspective, someone that goes to a lot of events, someone that's involved in the wrestling business. We wanted to get your perspective because we can say whatever we want pretty much, but we're not the ones necessarily being affected in this. So Cindy, just your thoughts so far after this like last week of the speaking out movement. What have you been thinking? What have you been seeing?
So this whole speaking out movement, from what I found down, is like it started out with someone has been spoken out about David Starr, which honestly, that was kind of like, holy crap, what is going on here? First of all, I'm not a fan of David Starr. He has like a huge ego that I'm kind of like not too fond of. But like hearing all these accusations about us, like this is like pretty much gone too far. And then like following the next day, you have a lot of victims men and women, just both genders, are starting to be speaking out even more and like throw into like different names and allegations. And like seeing all of this story come to light on Twitter, especially clicking on this hashtag speak out or speaking out or speaking out movement, all these three hashtags, my heart has been broken into a million pieces hearing from the victims, like within the industry, but also as a fan too. Yeah. And it kind of gave me like a very self-reflection that what's going to happen in the long run, especially like myself as a female and also a wrestling fan. Am I going to be safe if I'm going to be attending independent wrestling show by myself? I mean, I've gone to shows by myself in my past. As probably you guys know, I have a YouTube channel where I posted like vlogs of like going to different independent wrestling shows, kind of like come with me to the show wise. You can see like I think 3 videos. I went to the show by myself and I haven't had any issue at first, but then like hearing all these stories and hearing like these accusations, it kind of gave me like a second thoughts that am I going to be safe, or if I'm going to be the next person to be targeted, because as of now, it doesn't even sit well with me too. But I do want to say this. I give most respect to everybody that is coming forward to speaking out. As me personally, I've been a victim of sexual harassment when I was in the 7th grade. And of course, I was a victim of a abusive relationship mentally and emotionally as well. But then hearing these stories, it kind of like I can relate to some of the victims, and it comes to show like now that everybody has their story to share, and also like letting everybody know that they're not alone in this altogether. And whether like they're feeling comfortable talking about it or just gonna wait until like they're 100% mentally and physically and emotionally ready to speak out and share their stories as well as coming into like this whole collective.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I'm glad you're sharing all that too, because it just shows that, everybody, when you do anything, you want to be safe, right? And what this is showing with the speaking out movement is that, a lot of females and some males are just not safe at some of these events. So yeah, no, it's really heartbreaking to hear all of this, and heartbreaking to hear some of your story as well. Ryan, I know you had a question next.
Yeah,
Cindy.
Yeah, Cindy. The question I had for you is, what would you like to see change? Being a wrestling fan, a female wrestling fan, what would you like to see change at these wrestling shows, with the interactions between fans themselves and then the fans and the wrestlers? Because this has become a huge issue with the speaking out movement. Fans don't know how to conduct themselves, and ultimately wrestlers don't know how to conduct themselves. So what would you like to see change in professional wrestling with wrestling shows?
What I would like to see some changes, first of all, it has to do with the different companies. I feel for a change that they need to do like a little bit of kind of like a thorough background check for like which of the talent they're actually going to be bringing into like their upcoming events, especially bigger name stars too. So that's one of the things. For like the safety of like the fans and also the staff and the talent, have a little bit more security, because as gone to different past independent wrestling shows, out of anyone, I only went to one independent wrestling show where there's only one police officer in the present. Not because for security, because like that police officer was watching the show, but also making sure nothing went to in play. I know that there's another independent wrestling company that I've gone to in the past, All Pro Wrestling. They have medics on standby, but that their job is not just to like make sure if there's anything going on and like protecting the people. I feel they need to have like a little bit more security alike to make sure like nothing ever happens. I mean, I know they have like some of the ring crew there, but they're busy like making sure like just to protect the fans from like upcoming spots from during the matches and whatnot. But like just making sure that like everybody's feeling comfortable and making sure they're very well protected alike. Those are the things I would like to change. And another thing I would like to say is like to the fans itself. I know I've seen like so many stories of like fans are like trying to be like kind of like gone too far, trying to like go interacting more to those wrestlers, like, you know, on a personal level. And that is like one of the things that just needs to completely stop. These wrestlers out here are trying to make their name for themselves in the industry or have like different goals, like in the long run, like or going to a different companies they get signed and whatnot. But like having like in this personal level between like a fan and wrestler, it just needs to be in a separate matter and just shows to prove that for fans, they need to respect like the privacy of the wrestlers and respecting the safe being like more like grounded and also like separating for it as well. So those are like one of the things that needs to be changed for that too. And for that, I'm just hoping that once everything is back to normal, God knows how long during the pandemic. I know like some of the independent wrestling companies are like doing their shows, but like in a different social distancing practice. Mine is mid south west, but I digress. But
Indiana, Cindy.
yeah, pretty
It's
much. I know you.
that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, exactly. But um, I just see I would like to see these changes enforced and happen. I know it's gonna be kind of like a very awkward spot for like everyone wants everything going back together normal and stuff, but it is for the best for like these changes, especially like, you know, now that we're speaking out even more. And it's actually like it's gonna be one of those impactful moments for all wrestling communities and the industry alike.
Cindy, I know we were talking a lot on social media. I was DMing you and I was telling you how much this was disturbing me. You know, there is a period of time where I wasn't really getting much sleep over this because we've been, to bar wrestling with Joey Ryan.
Oh,
And to hear some of those stories that's come out, it's frightening to hear that. And it's made me think about how I conduct myself as a person. Um, Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the wrestling industry, in terms of the hierarchy, the executive level, needs to change? I talked to you about how there needs to be more diversity in pro wrestling, how I'm not seeing that diversity even on the executive level. For example, I know people are going to point to the fact that Brandy Rose is the chief branding officer of AEW, but that's only one person. I think we need more people of color, more people from the LGBTQ community, more women. I mean, I feel like that's just going to make this situation even better because some of these old ideas are still getting passed down. If we have new, fresh faces, not only do you get fresh ideas, of course, fresh storylines, but fresh ideas and fresh perspectives. And, that's going to help the industry change. What do you think about that perspective?
that I have to agree with you because like other companies alike, like whether it's independent wrestling and pro wrestling, yes, they need to be having like more diversity alike. So there's this one independent wrestling company that I've gone to, which I'm not going to name names and not to, so that way not to discredit them. I remember last year throughout the whole 2019, the only thing they are lacking was women's matches. And they only had just two women's matches just for the rest of 2019. And that's it. And as long as soon as like I heard who's going to be in the car, like shows after shows and after shows, where's the women in this? Like, I would like to see like more like women's matches and also like women as managers too. And to me, it's like it doesn't even set like a prime example of like a whole diversity too. Yes, that company has like right a wage of diversity, but not gender alike too. And that is like one of the issues I've been having. Like, come to think of it too, is that we're in this day and age is like more diversity, especially like from race and also gender too, just needed to be more and more aware too. I know with AEW wise, without you mentioned about the whole hierarchy and the only person that is Brandy, of course. And then with Impact Wrestling, I think that one other person is in the diverse range, but I forgot because I haven't even followed with Impact Wrestling as well. Yes, D'Lo Brown. Yep.
Yeah.
That's another perfectly example too. And I wanted to mention AAA Wrestling down in Mexico. They have like a very diverse person. The only person that is like in a non-Latino range was, of course, Vampiro, because he is also like one of the ambassador and also one of the higher ups in AAA Wrestling too. So I just feel like, these companies need to be setting like a prime example just to follow up with this whole like event and also this modern age going on, because it's sad that some of the companies like independent wrestling company that's like following up what these major companies are doing is kind of like setting their own ways. Also I wanted to point out about another independent wrestling company that is actually one of the accusation list as well. They're known for just having everything in the old school mentality too, and there hasn't even like set like a prime example to like what's going on in the current era like. But with that, I think that will be like another reason just for change is like more diversity, whether it's just for like gender, also sexuality, and for race too.
Well, yes, and I mean you make a good point, because if you don't have the higher ups respecting women, then you obviously the lower on the totem pole are also the respect for women is just not going to be there, unfortunately. But it's funny too, because like when we would go to bar wrestling, because unfortunately bar wrestling is now done because it was owned by Joey Ryan, which sucks, and also in some ways is a positive thing because he's not able to do the things that he was doing in the backstage. But when we would watch matches with men or women, I personally didn't really see a difference when we watched a women's wrestling match compared to a men's wrestling match. They were just as good, if not some of them better. I can remember when we went to New York for WrestleMania 35, Tessa Blanchard, we'll talk about her a little later in a negative light, but her performance she was better than anybody on that entire card by far. So I agree with you. I think there needs to be more respect for women clearly in the wrestling business. And it's unfortunate that with how talented we've now seen some of these women are, Sasha Banks, a lot of these other people, that there's still not as much respect. I do want to get back to closing out this segment of the podcast. Eric, you talked about last podcast about fans on Twitter, fans on Instagram, fans on social media in general. Do you want to just let Cindy know what you were talking about with what you've seen before and during the speaking out movement that was a little disappointing to you?
I think the only thing that I point out that I look at the whole thing is that a lot of the fans, they draw like a line in the sand. If you like side yourself with the wrestler, then the fans are going to get hated on because you're going to side with the wrestler no matter what. And then if you're going to be siding with the accuser, apparently that also makes them the bad guys too, because apparently the mentality is, or if anything, this is like a mob mentality from both sides. And if anything, there's never been like anything coming out good, nothing good. And it feels like we just get to the bottom of guilty until proven innocent in a way. So your thoughts, Cindy, on the whole, how fans draw a line in the sand. Do you think that there have been, in some ways, shape, or form, fans are going to change in a way by just giving out the wrestler speaking out for him or herself, the accusations that are getting them against, like Matt Riddle, Ryan, and Joey Ryan, and Velveteen Dream, all these people. Do you think that these fans are going to be able to maybe coexist or maybe try to help out the wrestling community by hearing them speak out and hearing their side of the story?
Well, that is one of the topics that on the NoDQ.com group chat that we're having some conflicts about. It's the whole innocent until proven guilty. I know some people are like, I've seen like different comments like from Matt Riddle's statement, which is just like a statement from his lawyers, and then other like statement that is like through like this whole allegation going on. And the only issue is that they just wanted proof that these accuser did it.
Yeah.
Was there even more to the story too? And I know there's like other people are starting to like being like defensive, be like, stop asking for proof because they already have gone through so much trauma and they don't want it to like relive the past until they're fully speaking out. So I just feel that whatever that is happening for like for from one of these victims, especially if they're going to be showing like a little bit more like through screenshots of text messages or like past like conversation they had, or like even having like a witness to it too, that's going to be giving like a more of like an eye opener from like fans alike. But still, innocent until proven guilty from like both parties. I don't know how it's gonna like affected by it until like if there's gonna be more and more like more stories that's gonna be coming up for it too. But with that being said, I just wish that they just need to respect the victims and just like give them some time and give them some patience, because boy, it is like pretty exhausted to say at least for like all wrestling fans alike.
Yeah, because I mean, last year I remember we were talking about this on the podcast, how the wrestling community was like as healthy as ever, having
Mm-hmm.
AEW being on TNT, the Indies promoting all their stuff, and they were all them. Everybody was all on board with change in wrestling, geared up for the biggest, if not the biggest, war between AEW versus WWE, which is NXT and AEW Dynamite. And then a year later in 2020 we get this, and it's never been. I mean, we get allegations, and then we get accusations, and then we move on to also the COVID test as well, and it just and then it just rises. Another thing that rises on both, if anything, on all wrestling organizations. I don't know how can, if anything, do you think that the wrestling community or the wrestling promotions can heal after this?
Honestly, I mean, all I can say regarding this, it's kind of like a little bit of too little too late, because we are still in a pandemic going on, and like some of these shows are like still not running except for just a little bit of them.
Yeah.
But what it is they just need to know is just making sure like they gotta be careful for what to expect, because you never know what's going to happen the next day, if there's going to be any more like bad news that's going on, like the speaking out, the whole COVID testing situation. And then I remember before all this, we had this tragic death from Shad Jaspar
Yeah.
to Hannah Kimura. That's where like they're giving like more of like a awareness of cyberbullying and also suicide too. With that being said, I feel that as a wrestling community as a whole, I could see that it's definitely going to be like it's going to recover from, as long as everybody comes together and just remember that like they're not alone. And this is like a very scary time during this crazy like pandemic era that we're all witnessing all together. So I honestly think that what's going to happen like within the next month or even to a year, that's going to be like a possible, I don't know if they're if like a vaccine that's going to happen and then everything is going back. But I don't think it's going to be going back to where it was in the past. But at the same time, I feel like they're going to be moving forward, but into like a new so-called normal, like in the post-pandemic era too. But as for everybody to just get along and just enjoy what one why they why they got into wrestling in the first place and what they love about wrestling.
Would rather have AEW versus WWE conversations than
Agree.
this stuff.
Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah, agree. And this whole ratings war situation is starting to get out of hand too. That
Oh, it's so stupid. Yeah.
it doesn't even make sense whatsoever. Like, let us enjoy what shows we prefer to watch first, or like shows to watch the next day, and just move on. This is not like what 1998. I mean, come on now.
Well, also like TV ratings don't really matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They only really matter on like certain levels of TV, but not all of TV, and especially with like Netflix and Amazon. I mean, how many providers are there? I'm still hearing of new ones every single day. A provider that has a TV show on it, but yeah, I don't take anything into the AEW versus NXT ratings either, and I think it's a little ridiculous, and it's one of those talking points in wrestling that just needs to stop. But so we want to switch topics a little bit here to the WWE. And Cindy, we have had entire podcasts where we literally roast the WWE. And they deserve it too. From just originally Goldberg winning the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship, to what's been going on with this testing is really unbelievable. And the website you're part of, No DQ, actually did come out with this part of this major news today, where we have an informant or somebody that is anonymous now explaining what's been going on in WWE the last couple of days. So can you just explain to our viewers and our listeners what you've heard and what your website revealed today?
So as of the report, as like an hour and a half ago, so NoDQ.com did post in an article that a WWE developmental talent whose wish to be anonymous sent out an email to Wrestle Inc., which is another wrestling website, regarding this whole like COVID-19 testing situation, and how the wrestlers are like coping with the fact that they cannot publicly say anything regarding this whole like COVID-19 situation. So as soon as like I read the paragraph, I was like, wow. So they're trying to let the wrestlers know, like, please do not say anything regarding these testing, whether or not someone has been positive or not. And to me, I'm kind of like shaking my head for a bit, because first of all, Renee Young was the first person that actually admitted via Twitter that she was tested positive for COVID, which sucks. And then next day you have is Adam Pearce, a former independent wrestler who is now a WWE backstage producer, tested for COVID. And then Kayla freaking Braxton got tested for COVID twice. One back in March, and the other one back in right now. So, and then of course the next day we have is one of the WWE extra who is also a wrestler from Major League Wrestling, which is like one of the up and coming major wrestling promotion. Think of kind of like Ring of Honor, but like in a modern twist. His name is Tyreek. He was tested positive for COVID. And then lastly, one of the former WWE superstar who is now a backstage producer, Jamie Noble, just came out via Instagram that he was tested positive for COVID. So with these personality and Tarek speaking out, I just feel that they did the right thing just to speak out, like they've been tested positive for that, and now it's like it's spraying out more awareness. This is not the first time that we heard someone got tested positive for COVID. Mind you, back in like late March to early April, someone in the WWE staff got tested positive for COVID. And that's when it kind of got me to where I stopped watching WWE for now, because of this whole pandemic. And I'm hearing like more developmental news about this. And it just seems that with WWE, they just wanted to do just business first, and then just worry about the health and safety for like whoever's is in the WWE Performance Center, like second or last or whatever. So this is kind of like pretty much like a very uncomfortable and dangerous type of situation. And also on the email, someone mentioned about that person actually mentioned about some people were asking to invite friends and family and some fans they're befriended to attend the show. And of course, they say, yeah, but as long as you know this person, go ahead. And then regarding this whole mask situation, well, it turns out Kevin Dunn was the one that did not allow fans to wear masks and made a outrage scene twice over the PA system to not wear a mask. So this right here, like what this person said in the email showed like the ugly truth from WWE. And for that, it's like they're doing kind of like a reckless job, but at the same time, they only care about just continue on with like trying to get the show going, especially the up and coming Extreme Rules pay-per-view. I don't know. It's really much like a big headache for that.
RKJ, man, I know that you've been doing a lot of research on this, and you tend to get a little fired up on this podcast. I really want to hear your take. Now, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we've talked about this today personally, but I want you to kind of replicate that on this podcast right now. And if you have any other new news that please tell us. But what are your thoughts on WWE right now?
So let's talk about this situation, okay? First of all, for those of you who think that the coronavirus is a conspiracy, that maybe it's not as big as what it used to be, or that you shouldn't be wearing masks, I got news for you, okay? Fact of the matter is this. You may not believe in coronavirus, but coronavirus believes in your ass. The fact is this. The fact of the matter remains is this. Infection levels are going high. America has let their guard down. And now I see that the coronavirus has now got little tentacles going out everywhere. Just spreading everywhere with the little tentacles going out everywhere. You think it's cute, and then it attacks your cells in your body, and then you're almost dead. So the fact of the matter is this. It's very disappointing that the WWE has made the decision to continuously put on these shows and not have healthy safety precautions. They were boasting about, Triple H was saying at one conference call how they had some type of secret to killing the virus, some type of spray that they got from a medical place in Texas. I researched that about how they could kill the virus and how they can disinfect. Well, how much disinfecting is happening when you're doing 10 to 12-hour tapings? They boast about having safety with fans with plexiglass, but they look like caged animals. It looks terrible. And then Kevin Dunn says that fans, you're not really a fan if you're wearing masks, and that coronavirus is not that big of a deal when people are out here dying because of it. Come on, this is getting absolutely ridiculous. I'm sick of this. Now let's talk about this situation even further, okay? I called up Nick yesterday, and I was like, how the fuck do you get coronavirus twice? She's Kayla two-time for getting coronavirus twice. And here's what I researched. In South Korea, what they found out is that you can have a viral, like you can have it, and it could still have remnants still in your body. So that could be a possible thing that's going on. We still haven't gotten everything clear, but there's a possible ability to still have it in your system, even if you've tested out of it. There's also a possibility that it could be negative. Nick, we were talking about this too. Maybe she got a false positive on her thing. I think that could be a possibility too. But here's where I get frustrated with Kayla Braxton with, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Kayla the person, but we see her on the beach. We see a lot of these wrestlers doing stuff that, just because the states are opening doesn't mean it's safe to do. And now the infection rate is going sky high. We've got WWE there. The NBA is getting ready to come there in a couple weeks. As an NBA fan, I'm scared to death about that situation as a Laker fan. And then also you've got MLS coming there. So the infection rate is high. And yet these people are going out onto beaches and whatnot on social media and putting it out on their social media. And then all of a sudden, we come back with a positive coronavirus test. And what's really bad is the fact that the WWE, just like America, lax on their guidelines. The pull-apart brawls have been continuing again. We've had multiple wrestlers in the ring with Renee Young and Jamie Noble there, also tested positive for the Rona. And on top of that, the Street Profits have went behind the plexiglass to hang out with the wrestlers there. It just doesn't make sense. Are we social distancing or not? what's going on here. And it's very frustrating that the WWE has made the decision to keep going on with these tapings. Here's what I say. Here's what I think needs to happen. You need to have 2 weeks of quarantine for everybody. People need to go get tested, and the facility needs to get clean. Put the people in there with the hazmat suits via Monster Inc. or whatnot. Put them in with the big old white hazmat suits. Let them go in and just spray spray all that coronavirus with the tentacles out. Get it all the little tentacle coronavirus mutants out of that PC so we can get back. And guess what? You know what this also is going to do? It's going to make us be able to actually get good storylines because they'll actually have time to write something because you have to keep doing rewrites. We're recording this right now during a SmackDown that's supposed to be happening. And guess what? I don't care about that SmackDown because half of it is a tribute to The Undertaker and matches we've already seen. So it's just frustrating for me that the WWE does this. And you have the money. You just released a whole bunch of superstars. Why would you do that when you have the money? Why would you not spend it on the correct testing to keep people safe? Now you're going to spend more money. And you're going to waste the money you did save, suspending those or getting rid of those wrestlers, which I think is absolutely BS. And I talked about that in April. You're going to spend that money on having to provide medical benefits for these people. And it's not funny because that wrestler, Tyreek, he has a pregnant wife. That's not good. It's not funny. We laugh at WWE stupidity, but ultimately lives are in jeopardy and lives are at stake. And we need to really, really get on WWE for this because they deserve fair criticism. And we should get on the wrestlers who are not taking care of themselves and not doing what they're supposed to do, like Caleb Braxton, with fair criticism, not criticism that demeans their character.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing about this whole thing, too, well, not funny, but the fact that AEW, who is also a company run by millionaires, that has a lot of money, probably not as much money as WWE, but they have a lot of money from TNT, has been testing every single week. And as far as I know, haven't had any positive tests from anybody that has been in their Jacksonville facility. John Moxley was affected by Renee Young and Marshall affected in Georgia. So it had nothing to do with AEW's taping. So why WWE just refuses to do that, I don't understand at all.
And also I wanted to point out, because I've been following up with New Japan Pro Wrestling for 2 weeks since they started their show again, especially with the New Japan Cup going on. They did test most of the stars and in-ring talent and the rest of the staff and media to make sure they're permitted to go to the empty arena, especially the ones they did recently at Kurikan Hall too. And that kind of gives me like a question regarding with WWE. Do they disinfected the ring or like the plexiglass during the commercial breaks before each of the matches? Because with New Japan, when intermission hits, you have everybody from the cleaning team wearing hazmat suits, all decked down, and start disinfecting the rings, the barricades, all over before like resuming their shows too, just to make sure they give like more like a safe environment. And I've seen that staff members and the Young Lions, which is kind of like the upcoming wrestlers who are in the apprenticeship with New Japan, they're all wearing face masks too. So New Japan did the right thing for just making sure just to taking care of the talents, and also at the same time making sure everything is disinfecting and clean. Also, GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, they just had their show last weekend, and for each of the matches, they have everybody in the cleaning crew, like after match by match, they start disinfecting the ring before starting a new match again. So they took it very seriously when it comes to like cleaning. But when it comes to WWE, I don't know if they starting to disinfect everything or not, because of like they're like doing these quick tapings. That's kind of like giving like more of like the questionable aspect of it too.
It literally doesn't make any sense how a company like GCW, which is the heart of an independent wrestling company, knows how to do it with no money too, but WWE just doesn't do it. And like you were mentioning, New Japan, they have their rules installed and the people are wearing face masks. If they're getting tested, technically you wouldn't really have to. That's why we see AEW talent. They're all on the side of the ring because they've been tested. It's a safe environment. And, to be wearing a mask would be a little unnecessary. We still do see people wearing one, But when you have a system where it's safe, you're good, right? WWE has made it as unsafe as possible, and it's why people like Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens probably won't come back for a while, just because of how irresponsible WWE has been. Eric, I want to get your comments on this too before we switch topics as well.
Once you throw in the name Kevin Dunn, we're off to a really bad start, because now I really feel like, okay, we're really, really going off to a really bad start. I mean, good thing is that I see other promotions, not just in pro wrestling, but in the UFC, I've seen Cleaning Crew cleaning up the octagon, and then also over at the I was watching right after UFC Fight Night last week. I was watching a boxing show over in Mexico, and those guys, they were all had hazmat suits, and there was no fans. The only ones that were in it were just the two boxers, the ring announcer, and I think one of the two guys the coaches. But there was like not that much interaction as from what I've seen. But other than that, I mean, it looked like there was nothing going on. I just saw the guys whenever they would, be done fighting. The guys with the cleaning crew would just be cleaning up the ring, and then they would just go back and then restart. But yeah, it seems to me that other organizations are taking it more seriously. WWE, yeah, it looks like we're going off to a really bad start. If this whole thing keeps up, then I don't even know how many wrestlers. I just hope that nothing really bad happens to these wrestlers. I mean, as Kayla, goes on the beaches, like, I mean, I that's really not on my business. It's if she wants to have fun out there, go for it. But like, as long as do it responsibly. Renee Young, I think I feel more bad for her because her show got canceled and getting the COVID test. So it's like you got two big things out there that's like really nailing you down. And it seems to me that John Moxley, I think I'm not sure from what I know, but didn't they test him? Cindy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
His result came back negative.
Negative. Okay. So I'm pretty sure he's good to be, good to be clear for him and Brian Cage, right? For fight off.
Well, luckily they have 2 weeks till that when he was apparently tested from when he's actually going to wrestle, because he's not going to wrestle on night one of Fyter Fest. So luckily that, and then RKJ, who were we talking about the other day that was that got QT Marshall won't be wrestling for at least 2 weeks. So
my biggest thing with this whole situation is a couple things. Number one, you're missing out if you're the WWE on a huge merchandise opportunity. Can you imagine if you had fans with cool wrestlers masks on? I mean, about a month ago, we saw a really cool Ric Flair bandana that I really wanted. Can you imagine how much money the WWE can make, especially now that masks in a lot of parts of the country are being mandated here in California? It's mandated for all of us to wear a face mask when we go out, except when we're eating. So the fact of the matter is that's a lot of money, and it's really good money that could come in that could help boost your finances. It's a huge thing. Second of all, in regards to Kayla Braxton going to the beach, look, I'm not going to criticize her and demean her as a person, but what I'm saying is she represents a large part of the WWE personnel who have gone out and have kind of lived a little recklessly, a little irresponsibly. And Kayla should kind of know better, knowing the fact of the matter being that she did have a coronavirus scare, regardless of whether we think it's positive or not. She had a scare. So when you have a scare like that, you have to act appropriately. And it's just a little disappointing as a fan to see. And she even came out and said, don't be dumb like me, because she didn't take the proper precautions and she got the coronavirus twice. So we just need to take care of this thing, guys. So we need to be serious. The coronavirus is adjusting. It's creating tentacles to survive. We need to adjust as a country and as a wrestling fan base and as a business. We need to adjust so we can beat this coronavirus and keep it living, because right now coronavirus could kill us.
Well, I mean, there's so much adjusting we can do. WWE is the one that's not adjusting at all. For some reason. I mean, everything you said, RKJ, man, was there. And I think this has been a good discussion, because it's so irritating. Every single day you hear news about some other stupid thing they did. And it's just, I don't know. And you're like you said, like RKJ, like they could be making money off of this, because that's all they care about. They're only a business now. They don't really care about their wrestlers at all. And RKJ, you were telling me the other day when we were on the phone, you were saying that like they've never cared about their wrestlers. Where you been? It's been like 20 years.
Or also they can, like you said, you bring a mask in, and then why don't they just do like like a WWE hand sanitizer thing. Why can't they create something like that, like a bottle saying that, hey, you guys want this? This is what Ric Flair uses to clean his hands off. You want a Rey Mysterio like a hand sanitizer, clean it off. There you go. I just made you. I don't know how much money, WWE.
Yeah, you could wear a Bray Wyatt hazmat suit if you want, right?
That's
But
right.
WWE just doesn't do smart things. So that's why we're talking about it on the podcast.
Bring back the ice cream bars.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, probably the worst time now. Yeah, we're coming out with ice cream bars. We made them at the Performance Center. Yeah, but no. Okay, so we're gonna switch off topics a little bit again here. Is our last topic of the day. It's going to be Tessa Blanchard. She has been fired from Impact Wrestling over it was not filming certain things they asked her to do. She's obviously been staying away from production due to COVID. Makes sense. Nobody can really argue with her about that. But she didn't fulfill duties that she was supposed to. She's been fired. We also know of the racist allegations against her. And in this current climate, it's probably the worst thing to have against you right now. And so, Cindy, we just want to get your take. Two things: your take on Tessa being fired and what's next for her, and then also, do you think that it had to do, in essence, and ultimately, with those racist comments she did make a couple months or a couple years ago? I can't remember exactly.
Well, when I found out about the news that Tessa got fired from Impact Wrestling, I was jumping for joy and I was happy because Impact Wrestling did the right thing.
Yeah.
However, when I read the reasoning behind why she got fired, I was like, well, this is interesting for the fact that, like, she didn't send in her promos for her upcoming match at Slammiversary where she's supposed to be defending the title. And keep in mind, her contract is about to be up, like, I believe next month or in 2-3 months. I don't remember. I know for a fact that she doesn't want to, like, drop the title. She wanted to hold on for longer because, like, she is stuck in Mexico. And plus, I heard she was supposed to be having, like, an upcoming wedding at that time. So, like, she hasn't even mentioned anything throughout social media to promote Impact Wrestling since the pandemic hit. But honestly, I just feel that, like, that is kind of like a BS excuse to why they fired her too. I'm surprised that they did not, like, fire her right away with this whole accusation that has been going on, because that happened back in January, and that was the weekend of the Hard to Kill pay-per-view where she has the match against Sami Callihan for that Impact World Heavyweight Champion. And of course, the victims that started speaking out, like Allison Kay, Rebel, Shauna, who else? Isla Dawn, Chelsea Green, and Priscilla Kelly, and so on and so forth, and also Renee Michelle, they spoke out about, like, what Tessa did from years ago using those racial slur and also bullying from the way it is, and for that, her winning the Impact World Heavyweight title to me is kind of like a slap in the face, in my opinion. Like, I just wish that Impact Wrestling should have, like, done something to Tessa, like, suspended her or fined her or whatever. Just like with AEW, they did suspended Sammy Guevara without pay for this really immature, messed up comment he said about Sasha Banks back in 2016. Why not? They should have done it to Tessa in the first place. Oh, no, wait, because she has a title match and she's now the Impact World Heavyweight Champion. So it's kind of like, to me, it's just leaving a very bad taste in my mouth for that. And lo and behold, because of this whole speaking out movement, I know Impact Wrestling already started cleaning house, like firing Joey Ryan, which, thank God, David Chris, and then Michael Elgin was suspended, and now, as of today, he's officially fired from Impact Wrestling. And so now firing Tessa Blanchard just because of, like, the current reason instead of the past. Now it kind of, like, brings in more self-awareness to everyone too, because, like, everybody is, like, talking about, like, where's Tessa gonna go next. I know one thing for sure: she is not going to get signed to AEW. No, ma'am. Because the fact that AEW has, like, a zero tolerance policy when it comes to abuse and racism and bullying and so on and so forth, they had to keep the reputation, like, aligned too. regarding with her, like if she's getting signed to WWE, I know that in the past, a couple of people have since spoken out to her, like during the Mae Young Classic, that she was kind of like giving out spoilers of the match, like for the Mae Young Classic, and like how she's rubbing everybody the wrong way and whatnot. But knowing Vincent Kennedy McMahon, I know for a fact that he's gonna be like contacting Tessa and offer her a deal if she ever decided to fly out to the state just to get signed with WWE, which I'm not gonna be too surprised, but yeah, that's what my take on Tessa Blanchard. I mean, now is that she's fired, and now everybody's gonna be rehashing for like this whole accusation that was first reported back in January of this year.
RKJ.
So, look, nobody was a bigger fan on this podcast of Tessa Blanchard like me. I mean, last year in New York when me and Nick and Eric were there, I was ready to see some Tessa Blanchard in action. We saw Bro Wrestling. I was a huge fan of Tessa Blanchard, and then that racist allegations came out. And at first I was like, okay, one allegation, then it just became like a firestorm, kind of like, unfortunately, the Speaking Out movement. Everybody started coming out against Tessa Blanchard, and then you started saying, well, it probably is the truth at this point. You've got so many people backing the story. You know what I'm saying? I saw this interesting quote on Reddit. I'm going to see if I can try to state it correctly, but it said, if you bump into one angry, mean person in the morning, then you met an asshole. But if your day constantly consists of you meeting assholes and dealing with assholes, then you are the asshole. And this is the case with Tessa Blanchard, unfortunately, where she is being that person. Look, it is wrestling's version of 2 weeks, a 2-week notice when you job on the way out, when you leave a promotion. That's wrestling's version of a 2-week notice. And to be honest with you, they weren't asking. Impact Wrestling was not asking for a lot of things from Tessa Blanchard. They were asking for you to just upload a promo. It's not going to hurt your safety for you to be in the comfort of your own home or going outside and doing a promo to promote a match coming up at Slammiversary. The Impact Wrestling, I think, deserves that right. She should be thanking the good Lord on high that she's in a company like Impact Wrestling, who the day after these allegations came out said, we're sticking by you and we're giving you our biggest title, the World Championship. And now on top of that, she disrespects them. She spits in their face. She doesn't promote the shows. She's not willing to do a simple promo from her smartphone when she can do things all over the time to promote the Tessa brand. You're the world champion of another brand. You're the world champion of Impact Wrestling. Your job is to promote the brand that you're representing, that you are holding the biggest belt for. And she's not doing that. And that is very disappointing, and that's very disrespectful. And if she did not want to lose the title, then guess what? I would have been okay with the Montreal type screw job situation at Slammiversary, because she needed to lose that title. Like I said, wrestling's version of a 2-week notice. You job on the way out, you move on forward. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why Tessa has this bloated mentality. She's a phenomenal wrestler. She has a great sense of the business. Well, maybe she doesn't actually. Maybe she doesn't have a good sense of the business, because she's clearly making stupid mistakes that is burning bridges everywhere. She's getting into it allegedly with Stephanie McMahon at the Mae Young Classic. It doesn't make sense, and I don't get it.
Well, yeah, no, it's in Impact Wrestling, we have a very credible source that has told us that they're not, let's just say, wrestler friendly with the way they run their operations, with as far as promotions go and gear and wrestlers gear and stuff like that. So not surprised that they would do some dirty stuff here with Tessa and wait to fire her until she violated some stupid little thing, right? Like, so. Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's going to be interesting to see where Tessa goes. She fits right up WWE's alley. She represents everything WWE represents, so she probably will get signed there. And yeah, besides the fact that her father works in AEW, there really is no reason why they would justifiably hire her when they won't let Hulk Hogan in their company and they won't let Hulk Hogan's wife. So it would be the exact opposite if they let Tessa in. Eric, your comments on Tessa being fired.
Well, it's no surprise coming from Impact Wrestling, because Impact Wrestling does have a history with how, obviously, like you said, Nick, it's not family or should I say wrestling friendly. I mean, it's really out there. I was once, a big fan of TNA wrestling when it premiered back in 2005, and then and then it went on from like 2014, 2015 on different channels. I didn't know where it went, so yeah, kind of like a wrap up bow tie about that. But yeah, for Tessa Blanchard, yeah, I don't know where she's gonna go. She's still gonna have her legion of fans. There's no doubt about that. I mean, her in ring work is still gonna be there. Her fans are still going to be, they're still gonna love her no matter what. Chances are, since she is in Mexico, I wouldn't doubt that she'd be in AAA wrestling because she has had matches there in the past. And then once she is done with her time in AAA, I'm pretty sure, like all of us, we can agree that she'll be going to WWE. Triple H, him being, businessman that he is, and he said it himself. It's a quote that him, Stephanie, and Vince have always said. They got to do what's quote unquote best for business, and if they see Tessa Blanchard best for business, they'll sign her. So I wouldn't doubt that she'd be there. I can see her feuding in NXT at first. I'm pretty sure how they handle her in NXT, it will probably help out maybe for her to gain momentum and sort of like recover from her past. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for anybody who is a fan of Tessa. If there's one thing for Tessa to recover from this, it's for her to be handled nicely, and also for Tessa to like sort of, maybe make amends for the damage that she's done in the past. That's what I think.
RKJ, what do you want to say?
A couple things. Number one, last year or a couple years ago, we talked about Hulk Hogan and his situation, and I said, you know what? I'm willing to forgive Hulk Hogan for a lot of reasons. And Hulk Hogan, he hasn't been perfect, but I think has stayed under the radar and been much more better to deal with. Now, you can criticize him for his early, for the mistakes of what he made, saying those terrible words on that audio video or that audio, and then obviously his bad wrestling decisions that people have criticized him for and he's gotten heat for. But, Hulk Hogan, I think, has worked to try to amend himself. I don't feel like Tessa has done that. She's come out and vehemently kind of have tried to defend herself. And then on top of that, she's been very silent during the whole Black Lives Matter movement, too. It's very interesting for me.
There's smoke, there's fire.
So, second thing. Let's talk about this. A lot of people were saying how, AEW hired Jake Hager. They got her father there. There's some other wrestlers that have been mentioned. Maybe I've heard rumors there's been allegations about Cody having a possible burner Twitter account where he said some kind of sketchy things in the past. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think? People are saying, hey, look, you have these sketchy wrestlers who are kind of the main faces of your company. I mean, what's wrong with having Tessa Blanchard there too?
RKJ, I was responding to something on my phone really quickly. Who did you say was the person with the burner account?
Allegedly. This is all allegedly. There's no, I don't see
anything. Who was it?
Cody.
Cody?
Yes. There's I saw some tweets and whatnot, and some people were wondering some people were speculating if it was Cody. And it came out during the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, look, I can only speculate. I can't speculate anything because nothing's been confirmed. But there's a lot of people that are coming out and saying they're, like, for instance, Jake Hager, there's allegedly a tweet where he makes a joke about someone and says something inappropriate, and the girl had Asperger's, I believe. So a lot of people are saying, well, you have these people with bad moral character in AEW. I mean, what's the difference with Tessa Blanchard? What do you guys think about that? I don't know if any of those allegations are true. I can't speak on if the allegations are true. They are allegations. But what do you guys think about some people, some wrestling fans talking about that from AEW's perspective?
I mean, I got to see true evidence of that before I'm going to indict all those people. I would find it extremely hard to believe Cody to be quote unquote racist, because he's spoken out about how he's even taken steps further being in a relationship with Brandy Rhodes. That it wasn't, I remember this, I believe it was after his match with Dustin at Double or Nothing, he made some comments about being in a mixed relationship. he thought, oh, that kind of gave him the card, right? Oh, he's not a racist, he's whatever, like all that stuff. And Brandy explained to him that that's not enough. Just because you're going out with somebody of color does not mean that you then are still treating people respectably. So I don't believe any of that stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, same.
Jake Hager comes from a different area of the world that you could say is, a bit more racist than some. But I got to see some real evidence if I'm going to indict anybody. And, I think AEW has done as good a job as anybody is trying to be as inclusive and as less racist. And you see even the evidence of more than likely firing Jimmy Havoc, and then also Sammy Guevara getting suspended for comments without pay. I think they've shown that they're pretty inclusive. So I don't buy into any of that stuff. Cindy, what do you think about all that?
I got to see some evidence about the Cody situation, but at the same time, I was like, I don't think he has like kind of alternate burner account, because when it comes to fans, was still this whole BS of cancel culture, of course. Like, I'm talking about the cancel culture that is going on social media too. Regarding with Jake Hager, I just want to see if it's going to be him that is like the one that is like what you mentioned it, RKJ, but also at the same time, his name was kind of like mentioned during this whole speaking out movement too. So for that, it's like, I'm not sure until if there's going to be any proof what's going on. But regarding with Cody, I don't think he has like that alternate account, and at the same time, I don't think he's like that as well. It's just fans being fans, just like trying to cancel people and be bored during this whole pandemic.
Well, it's also, Eric, it's exactly what we're talking about, where they see, there's a lot. This is another stupid thing I see on social media all the time. These people, it's like you can't comment that AEW is doing a good job. You guys all see those fans where like you have these WWE apologist people. I joked about that on this podcast like a year and a half ago, how I was going to be the WWE apologist just to irritate RKJ Man on this podcast. But it got so bad that I couldn't even be an apologist for them. So Eric, it's kind of funny that we hear stuff like this where the All-American boy, someone that is clearly as good a citizen as you could come up with, and they go, okay, let's try to get that guy, right? It's so ridiculous, man.
It's the mob mentality. That's the problem. It's the mob mentality from both sides, and it helps. And hate to say it, folks, it helps no one.
Yep.
Plain
you don't
simple.
have to hate to say it. Everybody agrees.
I know, but it stings to people, but that's just the truth.
Yeah.
I will say this: actions speak louder than words, and I've seen from Cody's actions that I've seen nothing that's made me think that he has a racist bone in his body. He's actively trying to include as many African American wrestlers on his roster. He took a picture with Chris Bay, and now Chris Bay, and that might have helped Chris Bay to get that job with Impact Wrestling. I just don't believe it. I just think we have to be careful of who we're alleging here to be at fault for certain things. I think Cody is good. As far as the whole AEW thing is gone, I think Tony Khan has done a phenomenal job with the speaking out movement situation. I did hear a story that came out with Sammy Guevara today with him helping a young girl, and that whole situation's going viral. I don't think Sammy Guevara should get fired. He just needs to get reprimanded for the situation. You can't say those words, but there's no way I don't think he should be fired. And I think Tony Khan did a good job of protecting people and protecting his company from the criticisms that we've seen in WWE so far. So do I believe Cody's a racist? No. Do I believe Tessa's going to AEW? Hell no.
Yeah, no, not at all. That would be extremely strange if she went to AEW, and it would affect their reputation for sure. No doubt. And so I get that her father's on that roster, but that would be extremely strange, and that won't happen for a while, anyways, because I believe the U.S. has had the ban for travel coming in until the end of the year.
Well, only just by driving, because by flight you can, because the Lucha Bros is back. Well, Pentagon is back in the state. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense too, and obviously the flights airports have gone to lengths of making sure people are as safe as possible, so that makes sense. Well, Cindy, we loved having you on the podcast this week. With any guests that we have, please promote yourself. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media. Let everybody know where they can find you on the internet, anywhere you want.
All right. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at nodq.com/Cindy. That's going to take you directly to my Twitter page where I tweet like here and there when it comes to AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling and then life in general. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram and on my YouTube channel at simply_C_OK. And also make sure to follow nodq.com on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube channel, and check out the website for all the latest news in WWE, AEW, and other wrestling related news as well.
Cindy's a pro. She does it better than us, for sure. And with that, obviously, the Ring Generals, we have our own social medias. It's pretty much, it's at the Ring Generals on Instagram, Ring Generals 1 on Twitter, Facebook. Go to the Ring Generals page. We have a lot of content there as well. And you can find all of us, RKJ Man for most of RKJ Man stuff. Eric Santos, and I'm Nick Nina, of course, so you can find me on all that. And you'll just see our names spread out all over the website as well. Always, any YouTuber, subscribe, like, and comment. It actually matters. It helps us promote our stuff. It helps get our stuff out into the ether of people that may not know about us. So if you're a fan of us, please do that. Feel free to comment, whether negative and positive. We got a couple of negative comments on the last podcast, but we love that, because we want to hear what you have to say about what we are saying. It's the reason we're podcasting. If we just listen to each other's opinions, it wouldn't make much sense. And of course, there's a little subscribe button, our little icon in the corner. Subscribe there. It's super easy. All you have to do is just click the damn button. But for this podcast, we are done. So RKJ Man, take it away.
Hey man, like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.
It's the Sauce, Alex Zane, and you're watching the Ring General Podcast. Turn this man around, subscribe, like, and comment.
But raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.
That's right.